Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. So today is the, I think, 17th, I think 18th of the Vesak month. I'm really, happy because many of our Dharma friends have been practicing Dharma purely as much as they can. I rejoice. I very much admire all of you to able to practice Dharma, not just attend the class, not just only listening the Dharma. You have been practicing Dharma as much as you can. Beginning of our Lamrim class, first we visualize Buddha Shakyamuni in the human form according to the painting, picture or statue. Then little below of the Buddha Shakyamuni, please visualize Maitreya Buddha and Manjushri. Because the Lamrim, which is have been studying for many years, the lineage, the teaching come from Buddha Shakyamuni. Then the lineage, the teaching preserved by the Maitreya Buddha and Manjushri. Then the teaching and lineage passed down to all the way to Lama Tsongkhapa, through Nagarjuna, all other Nalanda master. Then we received the Lamrim teaching from our own gurus. Therefore, it is so important to visualize the lineage guru of Lamrim. From my case, I received the Lamrim teaching 2 times from the His Holiness Dalai Lama. He received the teaching from His Eminence, his tutor, Tijang Rinpoche and Ling Rinpoche. The two Tijang Rinpoche and Ling Rinpoche, they received the Lamrim teaching from His Eminence Pavanga Rinpoche. Then the Pavanga Rinpoche received the teaching, Kangsa Dorje Chang, all the way from Adisha. Then Adisha received the teaching from Lama or Guru Selimba. Guru Selimba compound the two lineage, the profound and extensive teaching, received, put together and passed to the disciple, then all the way reach to Tibet, Lama Tsongkhapa, then through all the gurus, then His Holiness Dalai Lama. According to Tibetan Buddhist tradition, the lineage is very important. Whatever we receiving teaching from someone, the person must receive the teaching from other. Mean the lineage, the blessing must come from Buddha Shakyamuni all the way to our Guru. Then some of you don't have a particular like a Guru who are human being, then you can always accept, always believe the Buddha Shakyamuni is my guru. I haven't got the teaching from Buddha Shakyamuni. Still, I got the teaching from someone from Buddha Shakyamuni. Therefore, the lineage must be unbroken lineage all the way to us. Therefore, beginning of the teaching according to Tibetan tradition, first the guru must do 3 prostration in front of the throne. That time, the guru need to visualize all the lineage gurus above the throne. That he pay respect to all the lineage gurus. Second, when the guru seated on the throne or on the chair, the guru must recite the verses express the impermanence. Then the guru always, make a click and remember impermanence. Make sure when the guru, when he or she sits seated on the throne, make sure he or she doesn't have an ego, pride. Therefore, we follow Buddha teaching. When we receive teaching, make sure the teaching, received to you come from Buddha Shakyamuni. Second important, so when we receive the teaching, explanation, studying of Dharma, always you need to consider it is look like most important medicine. Most important medicine, elevate the sickness and disease of the samsara, free from samsara. Therefore, please everybody visualize Buddha Shakyamuni, then Manjushri, Maitreya Buddha, then you can visualize the teaching come from Buddha Shakyamuni, then Manjushri, Maitreya Buddha, then all the way to you. Second, visualize all sentient beings around you, form of human. And you can observe around all sentient beings. When you observe, when you look at them, any sentient being not truly happy. All sentient beings always seeking achieve happiness, not just short-term happiness. All sentient beings seeking the ultimate happiness. They always wish to be happy, but they always engage into negative actions. They always destroy the positive action. They don't engage into positive actions. When you think this situation, then you can have pure love. I wish may all sentient beings be happy and cause of happiness. Second, please visualize all sentient beings and contemplate different kinds of sufferings and generate pure love, unconditional love. Second, based on generating pure love, generate compassion, great compassion towards all sentient beings. So when we generate love and compassion, then we have very strong motivation, wish all sentient beings be happy, all sentient beings free from suffering. This is a very just simple mind, simple wishing. It really doesn't change, the real situation. The situation can be changed when we teach, when we educate them how to overcome from suffering, how to achieve happiness. In order to teach, in order to give, educate them how to overcome from suffering, how to achieve happiness, then we need to know their, individually, their mental dispositions. Because different sentient beings, different human beings has a different desire, different, mentality, different mindset. Therefore, it is very important to have omniscience to know the individually their mental disposition. And this moment, we all haven't achieved omniscience, we haven't realized emptiness, we haven't really achieved, accomplished bodhicitta. Therefore, we cannot do anything free all sentient beings from suffering, achieve them, ultimate state. Therefore, second, you generate bodhicitta, the mind which is wished to be Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. So when we think about bodhicitta, then we must remember the benefits of generating, cultivating, accomplishing bodhicitta. Just for the short, just 1 minute, 2 minutes, when you generate bodhicitta, you can accumulate the great amounts of merits. Within short time, when you generate bodhicitta, you can reduce, you can minimize the negative karma very easily. Therefore, bodhicitta is the most important practice in Mahayana. If we only practice great compassion, bodhicitta, so we can be bodhisattva, but we cannot, we cannot be free from suffering because we cannot eliminate the ignorance. Ignorance. Because ignorance is the cause to live born in samsara. Until today, we are in samsara. because of the ignorance. Therefore, everybody think, everybody have a strong motivation to eliminating the ignorance, which is always with us. In order to eliminate the ignorance, we need to recognize ignorance. The ignorance always with us, whether we sleeping, whether we walking, eating, drinking, the ignorance is always with us for 24 hours. Attachment arises sometime, but lay dormant sometime. Anger arises sometime, not all the time. Compassion, kindness arise sometime, not all the time. But ignorance is always arise. When we look at around you, when we look at around us, ignorance is there. When we eat food, when we feel the taste of the food, the ignorance is there. Therefore, ignorance is look like the physical sense, pervades all parts of body. So today, we're going to study how to recognize ignorance. What does mean ignorance? Then ignorance can be eliminated if we are able to achieve the wisdom. Not just wisdom, the wisdom which realize emptiness. So today we will study two subjects, ignorance and the wisdom. Okay, therefore, page number, I think, page number 207, the last paragraph. If, as you say, ignorance is the root of cyclic existence, then it would be incorrect for Chandrakirti to explain in the commentary on the middle way and in the clear words that the view of pressing aggregates as I and mine is the root of cyclic existence. But they cannot be true primary cause of cyclic existence. So until today, Lama Tsongkhapa, Chandrakirti, they have been seeing the ignorance is the root of cyclic existence, right? Then somebody has a doubt. And how come there are two primary cause of cyclic existence? Because one is the ignorance, second is the view of tracing aggregates as I and mine. Is the root of cyclic existence. For there cannot be for cannot be two primary cause of second existence, right? Sometimes said ignorance is the root of second existence. Sometimes said the pressing aggregates, the view of pressing aggregates as I and mine is the root. Therefore, they thought they can be the true root of second existence. So Lama Tsongkhapa are now going to reply for this question. Reply. In the section on the person of mental capacity, I have already explained what other master says about how to assert ignorance and the view of pressing aggregates. Therefore, here I will explain the assertion of Master Chandrakirti. Other Madhyamakas consider the conception of the thing as truly existence to be cognitive obscurations. So within the Madhyamaka, there's a two subschools. So Nagarjuna, Chandrakirti, Buddha Palita, all the Pasangika master, from their point of view, ignorance is afflictive obscuration, not cognitive obscuration. Rest of the Madhyamaka master, from their point of view, ignorance is the cognitive obscuration, not afflictive obscurations. Now next, Lama Tsongkhapa need to prove, according to Pasangika, the ignorance is afflictive obscuration, not cognitive obscuration. I hope all of you remember differences between the afflictive cognitive obscuration and afflictive obscurations. Cognitive obscuration, obscure, became obstacle to achieve omniscience. Afflictive obscuration, obscure to achieve liberation. Therefore, the Arhat who only achieve liberation, they are free from afflictive obscuration, not cognitive obscuration. The practitioner who become a Buddha, he or she eliminated both afflictive obscuration and cognitive obscurations. Make sure here you need to know the meaning of two kinds of obscuration. One, obscure to liberation, achieve to liberation. Second, obscure to achieve omniscience, therefore cognitive obscuration. Truly existent to be a cognitive obscuration. Then according to Chandrakirti, he asserts that such as a conception is ignorance. And what is more, he asserts that it is afflictive obscuration. Therefore, according to Pasangika, from the Pasangika point of view, ignorance is afflictive obscuration, not cognitive obscuration. According to other, Madhyamaka master point of view, ignorance is cognitive obscuration, not afflictive obscuration. It's a big difference. Now Chandrakirti need to prove ignorance is afflictive obscuration, not cognitive obscuration. As cited above, his commentary on the 400th stanza. These are Aryadeva explains that the conception of the true existence is afflictive. That means conception here are thoughts, the conceptual thoughts. The conceptual thoughts. That means some of you think, what does mean? We have two kinds of minds. One, think, perceive directly without having the imaginary. There's another mind that perceives things through the imaginary. For example, right now, you can see your laptop, your mobile. You are perceiving your mobile directly through your eyes consciousness. In between, there's no any imaginary. Second, after looking at your computer, then you have a thoughts. Oh, this is laptop. This is a book. This is a house. This mind is the conceptual thoughts. The mind perceives laptop, house, book through imaginary. Between the object and the mind has an imaginary. Therefore, we call conceptual mind. That means conception of the true existence. The mind, which is perceived thing as a truly existent, the mind is the ignorance. The conception of true existence is afflictive. Also, he explained explanation of the middle way commentary as says, because this cause living being to be confused in their view of the actual state of things. Please, everybody, read very carefully. Because this cause living beings to be confused in their view of actual state of things. So when we look at things, when you look at your computer, so we have a confusion about the laptop, about the computer. We have a confusion. We are not confused, this is laptop or not. We have a confusion mind. The real state of laptop, the real nature of laptop. Why we have this confusion? Because ignorance. Ignorance cause living being to be confused in their view of the actual state of thing. Make sure remember the actual state of thing. That means until today, we think whatever we perceive, the way of perceive is actual state is wrong. Until today, we cannot see, we haven't seen the actual state of the thing. We are very confused how things exist, how things perceive to us. This confusion caused by ignorance. The view of the actual state of thing, then it is delusion, ignorance, mistakenly superimposes upon the thing as essence, that they don't have. Delusion is the ignorance. Delusion, ignorance, mistakenly superimposes upon the thing as essence they do not have. So this one, we're not going to understand just reading the Lamrim, reading the treatise by Nagarjuna, Shantideva, Chandrakirti. First, we need to read the treatise. After reading, we really need to think. Because here said, ignorance mistakenly superimposes upon the thing as essence they don't have. For us, when we think about, the computer, laptop, books, and house, for us, the house must be is something actually there. Something, must be there. I can grasp. This is, very superimposed. So I said just previously, we read those treatises, then we really need to think very deeply. Then we're going to understand ignorance. They do not have. It is constituted so as to block perception of their nature. It is consular. That means, so there's an object. So right now, I think everybody, watching at the laptop, looking at the laptop, that there's a laptop. So we have an eye sense, eye consciousness. Eye consciousness is not, ignorance. It's a direct perception. Behind, you can say behind, after the eyes consciousness, there's a conceptual thought. Oh, this is laptop, this is book, this is good, this is bad. This kind of mind is conceptual thought. A conceptual thought cannot see the actual state of the laptop, actual state of the computer, because the ignorant cause to confuse the conceptual thoughts about the truth nature of the phenomena. Right? That means object, eye consciousness, conceptual thoughts, ignorance. Ignorance always produces the confusion about the truth state of the things. Also, the ignorance became, kind of obstacle to see the reality, to see the truth nature of phenomena. Therefore, it is constituted so as to block perception of their nature. Also, conventional truth as posited through the force of the afflictive ignorance, which is included within the factor of existence. So this area, these sentences try to explain us what is the actual, kind of function of ignorance. Why we have a confusion about the truth nature, about the reality, how we confuse. We confuse the actual phenomena and the phenomena which is superimposed by ignorance. Here, I think we can use, obvious example. Make sure I'm not really, criticizing the person who having a lot of heavy makeup, doesn't matter male or female. My experience, first time when I went to USA, America, I didn't think, all those people having the makeup every day. I really thought, the color, everything is so clean, so fresh, is there. I thought it's real. That means I'm confused. That time, the real, the face and the face with the makeup. Until today, we are just believe the makeup, the makeup face is the real face. We confuse. Actually, when we think about the face, there can be two faces. Outlook, the bright, the beautiful face there. The bright face is not the real face of the person. Under the makeup, there's an actual face. Right? Same thing. So when we look at the phenomena, it looks like there has a very heavy makeup. This heavy makeup done by ignorance. Therefore, all the conceptual thoughts, we believe that the makeup, produced by ignorance is the real nature of the phenomena. Therefore, we have attachment, desire, anger, hatred. For example, you are very much like someone who looks so beautiful. Then you have attachment, desire. When the person take off the makeup, wash the face, then your previous attachment no more there because you have seen the actual face. It doesn't matter male or female. So we are look like just confused the artificial, the nature, which is produced by ignorance. So next sentence here, thus because he explained, Chandrakirti explained that it is the first of the 12 factors of dependent arising. It is an affliction and not cognitive operation. What are the cognitive operation that will be explained below? So what Nagarjuna is saying, Chandrakirti is saying, ignorance is afflictive operation, not cognitive. Because ignorance is the first among the 12. Therefore, he was trying to prove ignorance is afflictive because ignorance is the first among the 12 of dependent, origination. This will then there's a question. According to Prasangika point of view, ignorance is the afflictive operation, not the cognitive operation. Then desire, anger, hatred, all the negative thoughts are afflictive operation. Then what is the cognitive operation? What is the cognitive operation? Then Lama Tsongkhapa said here, this will be explained below. So I think we will study later, according to Prasangika, what is the cognitive operation. Therefore, he explained that ignorance, which is the first of the 12 factors in the root of second existence, and within that means within the ignorance. That means ignorance is the first among the 12 factors in the root of second existence, and within that, within the ignorance, he also explained that the view of perishing aggregates is the root of second existence. That means ignorance. Ignorance has then you can divide into two: the general ignorance, then the particular ignorance, which is view of perishing aggregates. Right? That means if somebody asks you a question, what is the root of the ignorance? So what is the root of the samsara? You must answer ignorance is the root of the samsara. So within the ignorance, a very particular one, the root of the samsara, which is view of threshing aggregates. Right? So first, generally, ignorance the root. When you go very precisely, then the view of threshing aggregates is the root. Therefore, within, he also explains that the view of the threshing aggregates is the root of secular existence. Since ignorance is the general, right? Since, therefore, ignorance is the general category, and the view of threshing aggregates is an instant, very particular one, very particular one. There's no contradictions. Or therefore, sometimes, Chattakrithi say ignorance is the root of samsara. Sometimes he said the view of threshing aggregates is the root of samsara. Then somebody thought, oh, then there must be the true root of the samsara. There must be true primary, the root of the samsara. Then they thought there's a contradiction. Therefore, Lama Tsongkhapa said, there's no contradiction. Ignorance is the general. Then the view of threshing aggregates is the instant or particular. So now we study more about what does mean ignorance. Right? First, today we already learned what is the function of ignorance, how we confuse the artificial truth of nature and the truth nature. Then, not only that, so according to, different school has a different view about the cognitive operation and affect operations. According to Pasangika, from their point of view, ignorance is affective operation, not cognitive. The rest of the masters, Swatantika, Chittamanda, all the masters said, ignorance is cognitive operation, not affective. Then also we learn, sometimes ignorance is the root of samsara. Sometimes you can see view of threshing aggregates is the root of samsara. Then somebody asked, there can be contradiction. No. Ignorance is the root of samsara, threshing aggregates is the samsara. So here I think some of you confused. For example, we have an ignorance for all phenomena. When you look at the 10 people, you have a 10 ignorance according to the 10 people. So when you look at the cup, that time you can see the cup. At the same time, ignorance arises. The ignorance produces the artificial nature, which is truly existent cup. Is the artificial nature of the cup, which is produced from ignorance. So ignorance of the cup is an ignorance, but the ignorance of the cup is not root of the samsara, but ignorance of the 5 aggregates. That means, view of threshing aggregates. Ignorance of the 5 aggregates is the actual root of the samsara. This is the ignorance of the threshing aggregates. This is also ignorance. Therefore, there is no contradiction. Right? Next, we will learn what does mean ignorance. What does mean ignorance more precisely? Page number 208 continuously. Ignorance is the opposite of knowledge. But ignorance is the direct opposite or direct opposite of the knowledge. In the English words, the knowledge is also, very dry meaning. It has a just dry meaning. I have a knowledge about pen. I have a knowledge about how to speak, English. So we have all kinds of knowledge. So here, opposite of the knowledge, not talking general knowledge, is very particular knowledge. Therefore here, ignorance is the opposite of the knowledge, and this does not refer to just any knowledge. Right? What does mean ignorance? Your answer must be ignorance is opposite of the knowledge. What does mean knowledge? In this context, knowledge not refer to the all kinds of knowledge. Does not refer to just any knowledge, but through the wisdom that knows the reality. Right? Now, precisely you can say, what does mean ignorance? Ignorance is direct opposite of the knowledge, direct opposite of the mind, which is realize emptiness, which is realize selflessness, which is realize absence of truly existence. Right? When you say knowledge, you will confuse. Therefore, you can say ignorance is opposite of the mind, which is realize emptiness, which is realize selflessness, which is realize absence of truly existence. Now for you very clear, okay, ignorance and the wisdom is totally opposite. Wisdom realize thing as it is. Ignorance perceive thing as it is not is it is. Right? That means wisdom realize thing as it is. Ignorance perceive thing as not it is total opposite. For example, there's a two person, one person say, oh, Snow Mountain is white. Other person say, Snow Mountain is black. So black and white is total opposite. Black and green or blue is not total opposite. Therefore, wisdom and the ignorance is totally opposite, like a black and white, big and small, total opposite. How is opposed each other? Because wisdom perceive thing as it is. Ignorance perceive thing as not as it is. Right? Therefore, wisdom. Now, more precisely here, but the wisdom that knows the reality, that is selflessness. Now, according to Pasangika point of view, selflessness, emptiness, as absence of truly existent, shunyata, they are synonymous. You don't need to confuse, like emptiness, reality, truth nature, selflessness. These are synonymous. That is selflessness. The opposite of that cannot simply be non-existent of the wisdom, nor can it simply be something other than the wisdom. Therefore, it is a conception, that opposite means it is a conception, that is the wisdom. Wisdom, contradictory equivalence. Opposite doesn't mean simply non-existence of the wisdom. Also, nor can it simply be something other than the wisdom. Opposite means direct opposite, like a black and white. Once more, ignorance is the opposite of the knowledge. And this does not refer to just any knowledge, but to the wisdom that knows the reality. What does mean reality? That is selflessness. The opposite of that cannot be simply be non-existent wisdom, nor can it simply be something other than the wisdom. Therefore, it is conception, that is the wisdom's contradictory equivalent. So wisdom realizes emptiness, ignorance, we can say realize, you can say perceive the truly existent. Wisdom realizes absence of truly existent. Ignorance perceive self-exist. The wisdom realizes selflessness. That means now you can see the opposite meaning. Equivalent. This is the superimposition of self. There are two types. There are two types of ignorance. The superimposition of an objective self and the superimposition of the personal self. That means ignorance of the object, ignorance of the person, or ignorance of the being. There's two kinds of ignorance. Please remember, there are two types. The superimposition of an objective self and the superimposition of the personal self. Thus, both the conception of personal self and the conception of objective self are ignorance. That means there are two kinds of ignorance, both of them ignorance. Ignorance about the phenomena, ignorance about the person or being, both of them ignorance. Therefore, when he referred to Chandragirti. When he indicated that the view of the perishing arrogance is the root of all other affliction, this does not mean that the ignorance is not the root. So here, the perishing arrogance and the ignorance is look like me and human. Me and human. Me and human. When you say me and human, for you, you are not separate than the human. Human is not separate than you. Exactly likewise, perishing arrogance is ignorance. Ignorance is not totally separate from the perishing arrogance. Therefore, either you can say view of perishing arrogance is the root, ignorance is the root. Actually, you are saying same thing. For example, me and human. But me and human. For you, me and human is not totally two things. When I say me is not separate from human, when I say human, human not totally separate from me. Therefore, view of perishing arrogance and ignorance look like human and me, or human and he or she. This is the analogy. Once more, there are two types. The superimposition of an objective self and the superimposition of a personal self. Thus, both the conception of personal life, personal self, and the conception of the objective self are ignorance. Therefore, when he indicates that the view of perishing aggregates is the root of all other afflictions, this does not mean that ignorance is not the root. So here, what have you learned? You learned what does mean ignorance. Ignorance is opposite of the wisdom. Wisdom referred to very particular one, which is realize the truth, which is selflessness. Therefore, opposite doesn't mean not, just not wisdom, not existed the wisdom is totally opposite, like black and white. Then there are two types of ignorance. What are they? Superimposition of the objective self, superimposition of the personal self. Both of them ignorance. When Chandrakirti said, view of perishing aggregates is the root of the samsara, it doesn't mean ignorance is not. That means ignorance, perishing aggregates both is the root of the samsara. Now here, the perishing aggregates ignorance like a me and human. You can say me and human. Verbally, we are saying me and human. Actually, when you look at yourself, you cannot find you are separate from human. Human is not totally separate from you. Therefore, ignorance and the view of perishing aggregates is look like me and human. Next, we're going to learn more precisely about ignorance. Also, Nagarjuna's precious garland. I think the precious garland is very simple treatise. Maybe it says maybe like 25, 30 pages. But within the precious garland include all the practices. Also, all the practices they put into order by Nagarjuna. Because we say precious garland, right? In Tibetan, we say discussion with the king of the precious garland. So during the Nagarjuna time, there was a king. Then Nagarjuna and the king knows each other very well. Then as a king, Nagarjuna taught very particular teaching as a king. So many of, all of us, all of you, you are not king, but your lifestyle is very similar with the king. So when you read the precious garland, I think it is very suit for you, particularly as a lay person. Right? So therefore, His Holiness, many times he teach the precious garland because it's a very simple mean it doesn't have a lot of pages. Also very easy to understand. Also all the practice, in order. Here, what precious garland said here is a very important verses. Also, you can hear many times from His Holiness Dalai Lama. As long as you conceive of the aggregates, you will conceive of them as I. So this is very, very important. Because we already talk about superimposition of the objective self superimposition of the personal self. These words explain the meaning of the two. As long as you can conceive the aggregates, you will conceive them as I. Because yesterday I took the second injection, and many people said, oh, you must drink a lot of water. I have been drinking a lot of water, my belly became very big. I thought fever is coming, haven't come yet. Okay. These sentences are very important. Please everybody memorize, very simple, right? As long as you conceive of the aggregates, you will conceive of them as I. So this sentence you need to add very little, one word. As long as you conceive the aggregates as an intrinsic existence, then become more clear. As long as you conceive of the truly existent aggregates, independent aggregates, you will conceive of them as I. Right? Now we really need to think very carefully. So we have 5 aggregates, right? Aggregates. So until now, we have been perceiving the truly existent 5 aggregates, right? So we have been perceiving truly existent 5 aggregates, independent 5 aggregates. Therefore, we perceive the aggregates as me, as I. Right? For example, somebody says, oh, you are very ugly. The person pointed your body, your face. Then we get very angry, upset. Because we thought my face, my body is me. Because we perceive the 5 aggregates truly existent. Right? And somebody say, oh, you are very intelligent. Then we feel very happy. Actually, the intelligent mind is not you, but for us, the intelligent mind, the body truly existent for us. Right? Therefore, you must add the little words, as long as you conceive of truly existent aggregates. As long as you conceive of independent aggregates, you will conceive of them as I. Right? That means we always grasp the 5 aggregates as me, feeling, consciousness, so-and-so as me. Therefore, ignorance arises. This means, more clearly, this means that the ignorance, that is confusion in regarding to the objective self, right? So as long as of truly existent aggregates perceive, you will perceive of them as I. This means that the ignorance, that is confusion, is regarding to an objective self. Right? So when we perceive 5 aggregates as me, as you, that means we have a confusion about the objective self. We have a confusion about the phenomena. This means there's ignorance, that is confusion in regarding to the objective self. Cause confusion with regarding to personal self. Therefore, since this place the internal division of ignorance is a cause and effect relationship. Please remember that first there are two kinds of ignorance. Ignorance or objective ignorance and personal, personal kind of superimposition of the personal self-ignorance. Two kinds of ignorance. Within these two kinds of ignorance, one is cause, one is effect. So which one is the cause? Which one is the effect? Therefore, the objective, the conception of the objective self is the cause. The conception of the personal self is the effect. The ignorance, that is confusion in regarding the object self, cause confusion with the regarding personal self. Since this place that the internal division of the ignorance is a cause and effect relationship, it does not contradict the teaching that view of perishing arrogance is the root of all afflictions other than the ignorance. Here what we have learned two kinds of ignorance. What does mean two kinds of ignorance? Very clearly here, superimposition of an objective self, superimposition of a personal self. Thus both conception of the personal self and the conception of the objective self of ignorance. Right? The two ignorance. Two ignorance, within these two, one is cause, one is effect. So what is the cause of the another ignorance? Therefore, as long as you conceive of aggregates, as long as conceive of truly existent aggregates, you will conceive them as I. That means the ignorance of the phenomena is the cause. Particularly, ignorance of the five aggregates is the cause. Then is produced the ignorance of the self. Right? There's a two kinds of ignorance in division of ignorance in the cause and effect relationship. Now, more clearly, we have to study about these two, how one is cause, how one another is the effect within these two. If you do not understand this way of explaining explaining what is the matter Chandrakirti intended, then it is very difficult to dispel the false impression that he contradicted himself by explaining the root of the self-existence two different ways. So Lama Tsongkhapa explained very well about there's no contradiction. Saying sometimes ignorance is the root, saying sometimes the view of perishing arrogance is the root. So both is root, but there's no true primary cause. This means generally ignorance, particularly perishing arrogance is the root. Now you can see, as long as you conceive of the truly existent aggregates, you will conceive of them as I. Now he's talking about within the two ignorance, one is cause, one is effect. Among these two, first, the perishing aggregate is the first. The second, ignorance of the self. Right? Therefore, you can see there are no contradiction. If you don't know how to explain, then you cannot really, dispel the false expression that he contradicts himself by explaining the root of self-existence. Next paragraph. Nagarjuna, the protector, also accept this system of the identifying ignorance. Now more clearly about identifying ignorance. So this sentence in English, and I think the way of Tibetan is different. I think in Chinese is same thing. I think, for example, in English, they say the teacher said that ignorance is the conception that in reality, things are produced from the cause and condition. From these 12 factors arise. In the Tibetan words, it start from the third sentence. Things are produced from causes and condition in the conception that in the reality. From these 12 factors arise. The teacher said there is ignorance. I will read one more according to the Tibetan way. It's actually come, I think, same in Chinese. Things are produced from causes and condition in the conception that in reality. From these 12 factors arise. The teacher said this is ignorance. English way, the teacher said there is ignorance. What is the ignorance? It's the conception that in reality, things are produced from causes and condition. From this 12 factors arise. Right? Therefore, I think we read as a Tibetan way or Chinese way, I think for you much easy to understand the meaning. So I will read as a Tibetan way. Things are produced from causes and condition. First sentence means things around us comes or produce from causes and condition. Clear cause condition. Then the next sentence is the conception that in reality, actually things produced from causes and condition. For the ignorance, everything as an independent. Nothing arises in a cause and condition. This ignorance, produce 12 factors. 12 factors. Therefore, the ignorance arises the 12 factors. Therefore, the teacher, mean the Buddha, said there is ignorance. So this sentence, trying to explain, actually things are produced from causes and condition. Then in the reality, everything, every moment, every moment arises from causes and condition, different causes and condition. Something changes in the cause, the effect change. It is reality. That means in reality, everything arises from, dependent on cause and condition. For the ignorance, everything look like exists, everything truly exists, not really arising from cause and condition. This ignorance. Therefore, the 12 factors, the rest of the 11 factors arise from the ignorance. Therefore, Buddha said this ignorance. For example, based on our experience, we have four mistaken minds. The four mistaken mind. Four wrong conception mind. Impure as a pure. We perceive actually that something is very impure. For us, those are very pure. Something is truly suffering. For us, is truly pleasant. Things are impermanent, changing momentarily. for us, think as a permanent. The last one, thing doesn't have any essence. It doesn't have a self. For us, everything has a very uniqueness. Everything has a very essence. Thing exists, selfly. So we have a, for mistaken mind or for, wrong perception mind, right? Same way, all phenomena arising from causes and condition in the reality, for us, we never think everything arising from causes and condition. For us, everything exists, from the object side. Everything truly existed. All phenomena has a uniqueness. This is wrong. None of the phenomena has an essence to say this is book, this is person. For example, let's say a human being, right? You analyze yourself. We have been thinking, we have been saying, I want this, I want that, I am happy, I am not happy. We have been saying I. If you analyze how we perceive I, we conceive I, the aggregate as I. Therefore, as long as or perceiving aggregates, right? Aggregates, you will conceive of them as I. Therefore, when you say I, what? I'm strong, mean you are talking based on body. Or I'm very compassionate because of your mind. That means based on one of the five aggregates, we label one of the aggregates as I. Right? I. This is totally wrong. Based on having misconception about the five aggregates, then we have a wrong conception about self or I. The teacher said that ignorance is the conception that in reality things are produced from causes and condition. From this, the 12 factors arise. Through seeing reality, let me know how we can stop the ignorance. Through seeing reality, you know that the things are empty. Ignorance does not arise. This is the cessation of the ignorance. Because of this, the 12 factor cease. Through seeing reality, right? Through seeing reality means seeing emptiness, seeing selflessness. You know that the things are empty, empty of self, empty of truly existent, empty of essence. Essence. Things are empty. When you realize thing doesn't have an essence, thing doesn't have a truly existent essence, then ignorance does not arise. From this, 12 factors cease. Now, when you study this, just 4 lines, it gives us a really big hope, because sufferings, samsara, unpleasant, unhappiness, everything actually arises from ignorance. When we realize emptiness, then ignorance does not arise. The ignorance does not arise anymore, then 12 factors, don't arise anymore. Then we can be free from sufferings. What time is it now? Oh, almost 4:20. I think we better to have some Q&A. Okay. Please feel free to have a question. If there anything I need to clarify, please feel free.
Dharma brothers and sisters, do you have any questions? You can feel free to type in the chat window, or you can raise your hand to ask the questions.
Okay, Sheila.
Yes, Amnam.
Some students was asking, can you please elaborate what does it mean by meaning generality?
Thank you so much for asking this question. In Tibetan language, we use the generative, the meaning imaginary. We call Donji. Donji. Everybody can remember. Donji, the meaning of imaginary. Donji. Something we can perceive, the object directly for our sense, our mind. For example, when you look at the color perceived to your eyes directly. In between, there's nothing. There's nothing between the color and the eyes consciousness. Between, there's nothing. When you listen to music, when you are listening or teaching, the air consciousness and the voice or sound, between there's nothing. The sound directly perceived to your eyes, like nose, tongue, the body sense, those are direct perception. Clear, direct perception. Then there's so many other thoughts. The thoughts perceive something, but they're not perceiving things directly. Things perceived through something. For example, right now, you are staying in your home or your office, wherever you are. I think most of you, used to come to Tibetan Buddhist Center, the temple. And this moment, if I ask, can you remember, like Buddha Shakyamuni in TBC, Tibetan Buddhist Center? Yes, most of you can have the, thoughts to see the Buddha statue in TBC. You can imagine, oh yeah, I can see, Tibetan Buddhist Center. Oh, I can see Dharamsala. No, you are not seeing through your naked eyes. You are seeing, realizing Dharamsala based on the image you have. Right now, you can see, you can cognize Tibetan Buddhist Center from your home. You are not cognizing directly. You are cognizing Tibetan Buddhist Center based on the image of the Tibetan Buddhist Center. Therefore, Tibetan Buddhist Center and your mind, between there's an image. The image exists in the thoughts, the conceptual thoughts. Therefore, all the conceptual thoughts, all the the non-direct perception, always need to rely on the image, the meaning of the image to realize the thing. For example, right now, we haven't realized impermanence directly, but through study, through logics, we can realize, we can cognize impermanence through the meaning, through the image of the meaning of impermanence, through image of the meaning of emptiness. Yeah, very simply, object, subject, the subject can perceive the object through the image of the phenomena. That the image of the phenomena you have seen through your eyes. At the same time, the conceptual thoughts copy the image of the phenomena from eyes. Therefore, we call imaginary, the meaning of the imaginary. Or somebody say, the image of the mind. There's a different, translation. Got clear? Nitinda Doma?
Thank you, Geshe-la.
Yeah. Next question, please.
Yeah, next questions will come to Sui Kim.
Hi, Geshe-la. Can you hear me?
Yes. Very well.
Okay, so I have two questions. One is regarding the explanation you gave just now. Now, for example, the eye consciousness, it has got the 5 omnipresent factors, right? One of it, which is discrimination.
Mhm.
So does it mean that the eyes actually has a direct realization of the object in this case, because it is a direct perceiver? That means it realizes object, a cup, directly. I thought only a Buddha can do that.
Oh, no. Yeah, we can, perceive directly through our eyes consciousness, also the 5 omnipresent mind. Yeah.
So it is a direct perception. The eye does realize the object cup.
Of course.
Okay.
Therefore, the 5, the sense look like, like child. All the baby can perceive things, eyes, ear, tongue. They don't have a thoughts. Oh, this is a car, this is a motorcycle, this is how. They don't have this kind of thoughts. That means the 5 senses look like very little baby. Just can see, can perceive. It doesn't have the potential to label good and bad. Then the labeling, good and bad, big and small, blue and yellow, whatever. We say, oh, this is good, this is big, this is yellow. This kind of the concept produced from the thoughts. Yes, the eyes consciously perceive the cup directly, definitely.
Okay. The other point is concerning your text just now on the objective self and the personal I. So is it correct to say that we have a misconception of the aggregates? We apprehend the aggregates as objectively existent. That is the objective I, and that gives rise to a personal I.
Yes.
So that's the objective I and personal I as it is defined. Okay, Ken, thank you.
Correct, very correct.
Okay.
Next question, please.
Geshe-la, would you please explain personal self and objective self?
I think when you say objective with a personal self, it confuse you because of the English term. Very simply, ignorance about the 5 aggregates, ignorance about the I, I. The ignorance about the 5 aggregates cause to arise, cause to have the ignorance about the I, me. That means, superimposition on objective self, mean superimposition about the 5 aggregates, superimposition of the self. You think very simple way, because the English say, objective self, personal self. So this English word really confuse you. Simple, you say there's 2 kinds of ignorance. ignorance about the five aggregates or phenomena, and ignorance about the I and me and self. The ignorance about self caused by ignorance of the five aggregates. The object, ignorance about the object, ignorance about the self. So you put that way, therefore you much easy to understand about the two types of ignorance. Okay, next question.
Sheila, what is an appearance of emptiness? Is it correct to say an appearance of emptiness is a mental image or meaning generally of emptiness? And this is the object of an inferential cognizer realizing emptiness.
Appearance emptiness is the, actually you are appearance or perceiving emptiness. It's a same meaning. Appearing emptiness, perceiving emptiness, cognize emptiness is the same meaning. So you are perceiving, you are cognizing emptiness. How you perceiving, how you cognizing emptiness. For example, somebody use, the logics about, the dependent arising. They use the dependent arising as a logic. You discuss with the person for, quite a long time. Then through the discussion, through the logic, you have an assumption. Oh, thing must be this way, not that way, I think. Because you have an assumption. You have a gross kind of knowledge, understand about emptiness. Then the logics and reasonings you use very quite often for many times. Then the gross assumption become very solid assumption. Still you are having some kind of experience about emptiness. Then finally you really think you got a very strong conviction. Violent kind of thoughts. Oh, all phenomena, is totally absence of inherent existence. Then you got very strong kind of conviction mind. Then the mind actually perceive emptiness, cognize emptiness through the understanding or through the knowledge you have. A mind actually perceiving emptiness not directly based on the image you are imagining, oh, this thing like this is. Therefore, there's no contradiction having the meaning imaginary perceiving emptiness. Until you become Arya, you have to rely on the meaning of the imaginary. Otherwise, there's no way you can realize impermanence, emptiness. Yeah. Okay, so today we can stop our class here. It's almost 5. And thank you so much for attending the class. And also, I know many of you have been doing, serious practice during the Vesak. Please, keep your practice continuously whole life, particularly, until the end of the Vesak month. Then you seriously practice Dharma for 1 month. Then you got a good experience. You got a very happy feeling. Then you can keep your practice continuously, until you die. So still we have another, I think, few days to end the Vesak month. Maybe around 9 days, right? 8 or 9 days. It's still, anybody wish to offer like a light, still you can contact to Tibetan Buddhist Center, because so today is the last day of offering kind of finished. Today is the last day offering the candle, which is sponsored by you guys. So still you wish to offer light, you can still contact the office. I can offer light for you. So thank you so much. Appreciate all your practices. At the end, we do the dedication as usual. First, we dedicate the merit of becoming Buddha ourselves to benefit all sentient beings. Second, dedicate the merit for realizing emptiness, to able to accomplish bodhicitta, to able to practice the sixth perfection for achieving Buddhahood. So we dedicate all our merits, which is we accumulated since beginning of the Vesak month until today, to benefits to all sentient beings, particularly to benefit all the families, all the persons who affected COVID-19. Also, we dedicate the merit to benefit all the supporters and donors for Tibetan Buddhist Center, particularly the family, the person, the group who donate, make a donation for light offering, flower offerings, fruit offerings. Madhu muge guba kunje ne tsirene me diye dambara shu. Chanchu simcho rinpo che ma ye pa na ye gu. Ye wa nyamba me pa yang kone kondo perwa. Tongyi tawa rinpo che ma ye pa na ye gu. Ye wa nyamba me pa kone kondo perwa shu.